of the bump. I want that bump to move up with me, and that will be my second pull here. Now, one very important note is to do not change the distance between your fingers, because if you do that, you're gonna have uneven walls. So now definitely is a time to slow down. So let's say I don't like that it flares up. I can actually color it. For coloring, 6 point of contact are a little bit better than 2, right? Or 4 actually, sorry. So I'm starting on the base, and as I coming up, I'm gonna start rotating my wrist and point the fingers upward. That helps keeping the coloring in place and reducing the chances of collapsing of the wall right here. So let's say we're getting very close to the cylinder, cleaning up a little bit the base. So as you can see, we don't have to use a lot of water. That's really not necessary. I'm checking my work. This is first to check. I can see there's a little bit thicker at the base. This can be a good time to use a compression. To do that, it's similar to a pull, but a lot less forces. So you want to be nice and gentle. I have 1 straight finger on the inside, 3 fingers on the outside, and I'm using the tip of the fingers and not the flat part. Again, the finger most of the time should be active, so a little bit of a curl, not a lot, just a little bit of a curl. So you can use the tip of the fingers. Now I do that also to reduce friction, and also so that allows me to throw a little bit drier. The other reason why I use the tip of the fingers is that I can actually control within the 3 fingers and make micro adjustments. So if I feel that something is off, I can always make this micro adjustment using the fingers. So I can go ahead and do a couple of passes. Now if I want to make this one into a perfect cylinder, I should probably go in a different direction. I'm starting to widen it out. So yeah, actually let's do that, because this guy is already going in that direction. I could bring it back to a very different shape, but the more you mess with the shapes, the more the clay is going to go through phases of adjustment, and you're risking to weaken the structure. The compressions are a really good tool to apply after coloring, for example, or even stretching the clay out. This could be a good time to use a tool on the outside if you're comfortable using tools. So for example, a wooden rib can be on the opposite side to help out with this process. Now I'm pushing from the outside, and I still have my fingers on, pushing from the inside. I still have my finger on the outside to just kind of supporting the change, because I don't want to, if possible, or let's say it will be stronger if I support this change, because I do 2 things: stretching the clay and compressing it at the same time, which again, if we think in structure, it's a much better place to be. Now here in the, when we color it, for example, and that requires a little bit of patience. I don't know if you can notice, but the rim is starting to get like a little kind of a jaggedy look. That look corresponds to some bumps on the clay. So we gotta go back in and correct it by compression. If you have wobbles coming from it, you know, you can always adjust that too. Now, I always want to work in the direction of the wheel, so I would not work with the hands on this side, always on the side that supports the direction of the wheel. That's a very important step. Like, check yourself, are the fingers in the direction of the wheel or against? If I put my thumb here, it's possible, but I cannot curve it in. It has to be this way. I want to put a nice flat neutral tool against, not something that can catch the clay. Often students have issues when they're getting closer to the rim, and the idea is if you do apply a lot of pressure at the beginning of the pull or compression or whatnot, as you move up, you want to let go a little bit. I usually mention that we go 100% of the force here and 5% up by the rim, because if we hold the rim too tight, it's just going to break. So here we need to be very gentle. I use just one hand to do the compression of the rim very often, where these two fingers are supporting the wall and this one just kind of pushes down a bit. But there's another way also, just kind of holding the wall with one hand, then putting the index on top and slowly pushing it down. And what we're removing is all the slip that accumulates on the rim. And the reason why we're doing that, because if we were to fire otherwise, very often, if you don't do the compression, you're getting cracks all over. So that's pretty much the tool that we use with the wheel. There's really not a lot more. So pushing from the inside with a little bit of support on the outside to generate a curvature right there, that a bump that comes outside. And if we want to bring this in, again, we're going to use coloring. As you color, also the clay gets a little bit thicker. So again, I'm going to push it now to the point that we can see those little steps maybe a little bit better. So often, once you color it, you can actually, you might be in need of, because of those little bumps, of actually cutting the rim. Actually, let me do a quick demo on cutting the rim. Right now I'm doing a compression, and naturally I'm getting some elevation because there is more clay than it used to be there. I'm aiming for a shy 1/4 of an inch as a dimension for a path this size. Something smaller may be thinner. Working thin can be beautiful, but also risky. So you want to find what you're comfortable working with. Making sure that the water is removed from the inside of the piece. I like to work clean if possible. And I'm gonna go get it real quick. Hold a second. In order, okay, good. In order to cut the rim, we can actually use a little wire. That's one way to go about it. You want to make sure you go down in half. So usually it's about a 1/4 of an inch. I hold it nice and steady. My elbow are still on my legs, you know, elbow down, and just go in here, wait, and then pick it up. So you get a nice little cut. It's a good way also to check your work. If the walls are all the way even all around, that means that, you know, you kept your work center the entire time. Is usually a good achievement. Now from here, probably gonna start working on rounding up the rim a little bit, because I don't want it to be, and I prefer to go from inside out, and I'm using my fingers very gently in from the inside, rotating slowly outward. Then you can bring this back in if you want to, but if you push from both sides, you're getting one line in the center, and that's kind of not a could become an issue. And I've seen it sometimes, students bringing both lines in and being left with a line in the middle. So I'd say we want to add a spout to this since we're here. Actually, probably I want to clean up the rim first. Should I get my stuff first? So the spout should be the very last, and the rim has to be pristine before you go in and attach and give a spout, and that's because it's really hard to make correction to the rim after the spout is applied. So Here I'm going to use the chamois. I usually like to take about 3/4 of an inch distance, holding it in your hand nice and tight, bringing it to the piece, no downward pressure, just bringing the thumbs together. So, and it's starting to look nice. Probably gonna use just a sponge to remove some of the slip from the sides. You can use a rib and get a better result. Right now I don't have one on hand, but sponge also does, if used lightly. If you use it very heavily, you're probably gonna encounter the issues of bringing the grog to the outside of the piece, and that doesn't look nice usually. So here we can start adding a spout. Why not? It's gonna be a very interesting piece. So with fingers wet. So you could do it this way, this way. I like it this way better. And finger on the inside, gently massages inside. And this actually helps because of the little flickering here, little flicking of the fingers, helps with making sure that the spout will pour the water nicely. Yeah, so yeah, we got a nice little lemonade jug. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Then your work can be you know, lifted from the wheel. We're using bats, so we just can bring the entire bats to your table, and we'll have to dry, be trimmed next week, and then attach a handle to it. That's it.